Tonight on CBC Vancouver News.
Do the right thing. Come forward, speak to police, and provide closure to the hundreds of kids and families who have been impacted by this.
Police now say a fire that wiped out a Port Coquitlam elementary school was human-caused. Plus,
we know that workplaces that are safer and better staffed are better for patients and better for nurses.
a first in Canada. BC is setting nurse-to-patient ratios to improve hospital care and offering bonuses for nurses to work in remote and rural areas. Also, we take you to the celebration for Hobier, the Nisga'a New Year.
This is CBC Vancouver News.
Hello, I'm Dan Burritt. Thanks for joining us. Investigators in Port Coquitlam now say they believe a fire that wiped out a school was human-caused. Hazel Trembath Elementary School burned to the ground in October and displaced some 500 students. Chad Pawson has our top story.
After a nearly 5-month investigation into the Hazel Trembath fire, police are now sure somebody caused it.
It is confirmed what we suspected, that the cause of the fire was human-caused and it is criminal in nature.
The fire began in the early morning hours of Saturday, October 14th. When firefighters arrived, the school was fully engulfed in flames. Its destruction has displaced hundreds of students. Carr says the investigation is a priority for his force. It's now looking to identify suspects. Port Coquitlam Mayor Brad West is also asking people to come forward.
Do the right thing. Come forward, speak to police, and provide closure to the hundreds of kids and families who have been impacted by this really unthinkable act.
Parents from the school say its destruction has been a hardship, now made more difficult learning someone conspired over the fire.
I think it just makes it that much harder for the school community to process that. How could somebody do this to our kids' school, and why? That's the bigger question.
It's difficult to realize that two of my children definitely won't be attending school, elementary school in their community. And maybe my daughter will get to graduate from the new Hazel if it is rebuilt.
Since the fire, the kindergarten to grade 5 students from the school, some 500 of them, have been relocated to a former high school. In December, the school district said it would take until the end of April to clear and demolish the burned building before it can be rebuilt. Chad Pawson, CBC News, Vancouver.
Police on Vancouver Island say a pedestrian has been struck and killed in Victoria this morning. It's the 4th pedestrian death reported on the island in just over a month. Police say the driver is cooperating with them. On Thursday, a 42-year-old woman died in Souk after she was struck by a driver. Police say that motorist who stayed on the scene has been ticketed for driving without due care and attention. ICBC says there has been an average of 8 pedestrian deaths each year on the island over the past 5 years. And October to January are the most dangerous months. A first in Canada, BC has established nurse-to-patient ratios to improve hospital care. Here's a look at the new ratios that will be implemented in 6 areas of care, including general medicine and intensive care. The province has also announced signing bonuses to help encourage nurses to work in northern and remote communities. Starting next month, eligible nurses filling positions in the north could get up to $30,000, while nurses in other rural and remote areas could get $20,000.
We know that workplaces that are safer and better staffed are better for patients and better for nurses.
The Health Ministry says it's spending roughly $237 million to support the new ratios and help retain and recruit staff. It says it will also work with the BC Nurses Union to set ratios for any remaining hospital settings as well as non-hospital ones. Vancouver's biggest employer in the gaming industry is cutting 5% of its workforce. In a statement addressed to its team members, Electronic Arts says it will begin laying off about 670 employees and closing some offices.
I think it is, a number of factors. I think that there was a growth in the industry during the pandemic. A lot more people were playing video games, and I think a lot of the game companies responded to that and hired up. And I think people have gone back to work, and they're finding themselves a little less, time available for playing video games and finding out about video games.
India's High Commissioner to Canada is in Surrey attending an event being hosted by that city's Board of Trade. Protesters have also gathered, many of them angered after Prime Minister Justin Trudeau accused the Indian government of playing a role in the killing of pro-Khalistan activist Hardeep Singh Nijjar in Surrey last June. Our Saurabh Sandhu is at the Sheraton Hotel in Surrey. Saurabh, what's the situation there now? Saurabh, can you hear us? We seem to be having a technical issue with Saurabh Sandhu, and we'll come back to him as soon as we can. We'll get back to Saurabh as soon as we can. It is March 1st, and it's more than just first day of a new month. It's also Employee Appreciation Day. We hit the streets to ask people if they feel appreciated by their employer.
Do you feel appreciated at work?
Absolutely not, because I haven't gotten a raise yet.
For the most part, yes.
I do. Yes, I create on my own workplace, and I'm happy that I'm able to provide the service I give to all the patients and clients.
What makes you feel appreciated at work?
A good paycheck, a good raise. Just getting paid what we're worth is much more, now these days especially. Knowing how things are going economically.
I don't looking for the boss that's very controlling you. I looking to a boss that look at you like human being.
I think for the most part, just like get more encouragement, like some really good words. That's it. That's all I want, really.
A tour guide in BC is being called a hero for pulling a man to safety after an avalanche hit a group of snowmobilers earlier this week near Revelstoke. The CBC's Benit Brach spoke with our Corey Bullock, who's been following the story from the Kootenays.
Tell us what happened here.
Yeah, absolutely. So in Revelstoke, as you mentioned, Olivier Meyer was guiding a group down the mountain when he noticed another group of snowmobilers frantically searching through the snow. He told his guided group to stay put, and he went over to help. The snowmobilers told him that their friend had been buried by a level 3 avalanche, and they were looking for him. So Meyer jumped in and asked if, these men had their transponders on and if they were able to find a signal for their friend. Unfortunately, they weren't. So Meyer turned his on and was able to find a signal a little bit further away. They were able to get their friend unburied. And he had been under the snow for about 15 minutes at that time.
Wow.
He was blue in the face, having trouble breathing, but eventually he came to and they were able to warm him up. Thankfully, multiple people had set off their SOS beacons, so more help arrived fairly quickly. And Meyer says the man was thankfully uninjured, but I think everybody is still shaken from this incident, Benit.
Yeah, and I know there has been a lot of applause for this rescue, but, there's a lot of avalanche safety concerns right now. What does this story kind of speak to in terms of being prepared?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Meyer did say that, it's imperative that when you're in the backcountry, you have the proper equipment and the proper training. And we're seeing that right now as Avalanche Canada has issued a special avalanche warning for BC and Alberta. We've had all this fresh snow, but that's covering a weak layer. So anybody headed out into the backcountry this weekend is urged to stay out of avalanche terrain.
Corey Bullock reporting from Cranbrook. To the U.S. now, the Smokehouse Creek fire is now confirmed to be the biggest in the history of Texas, covering over 1 million acres and causing ongoing damage.
There are about 400 to 500 structures that have been destroyed. There's no way to say for certainty that's going to be the final number.
Been confirmed dead, 2 people confirmed dead, and just 15% of the blaze contained. There are 3 other active wildfires in the state, and the National Weather Service warns heat and high winds are likely to cause critical conditions over this weekend. Meanwhile, a blizzard warning is in effect for parts of California. Snow was already falling in the high Sierra Mountains, where blizzards are expected to last throughout the weekend. Forecasters are expecting whiteout conditions with near zero visibility. Areas around the Lake Tahoe Basin could see up to 4 feet of snow, and areas above 6,500 feet could see up to 8 feet. Back in this province, Darius Madavi joins us for a first look at the weather and what's going on here.
Well, we've got plenty more snow on the way. We actually saw some snow come down the mountains into places like North Vancouver and up at SFU, and even a few flakes falling in South Vancouver. So a little bit of excitement across Vancouver, the Vancouver area. Plenty of showers also still throughout the more southern or the lower elevation parts of Vancouver. But across the board, quite a bit of excitement here in Vancouver, and we've seen that a bit of a wintry mix that's going to continue over the next few days. Now, things are calming down generally across the province, and including here on the south coast, where we're still seeing some snow at those higher elevations along the south coast and plenty of rain still moving in. But overall, some calmer conditions. All of our weather warnings have dropped now. No more of those winter storm warnings on the highways, so travel will be a little bit better this weekend than we were otherwise expecting. But overall, conditions are not looking too bad. Here in Vancouver, we do have a small risk of a thunderstorm tonight because of those convective clouds. But overall, we're looking at a few flurries over that high terrain tonight continuing. But for the most part, showers at those lower elevations. And tomorrow, some scattered showers continue. So overall, temperatures staying a little bit below average over the next few days. But overall, not too bad.
No kidding. All right. We'll connect later. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Now let's go back to our Saurabh Sandhu. He is at the Sheraton Hotel in Surrey, where protesters have gathered, many of them angered that India's High Commissioner to Canada is in that city. He's attending an event being hosted by the Surrey Board of Trade. Saurabh, what's the situation there now?
Dan, right now we are outside the hotel, and behind me you can see a group of protesters that have been stationed here for almost an hour. More than 60 to 70 people who are patiently standing here. They've got flags in their hands, and they are here today protesting the presence of the Indian High Commissioner, Sanjay Kumar Verma. Now, the Indian High Commissioner is going to be here shortly to speak at an event hosted by the Surrey Board of Trade. Now, this all goes back to the assassination of Sikh activist Hardeep Singh Nijjar last year. Right from the very beginning, the supporter of the slain Sikh activist have suspected Indian involvement in his assassination. In fall, the Prime Minister himself, Justin Trudeau, he pointed towards the possibility of Indian agencies' involvement in this. So right from that point onwards, Indian consulates and their officials have been targeted by such protests. Earlier, I spoke to one of the protesters, and this is what he had to say.
Normalizing relationships with India, with the High Commission, without any form of evidence of equity or justice towards the Sikh community, towards the killing of by Hardeep Singh Nijjar, it's impossible to have. So this event here, it's really a slap in the face to the community.
There is Saurabh, we know there's a sizable, what appears to be a sizable police presence there. Those RCMP cruisers just moving in behind you along with the protesters. What has the reaction, or what has been the reaction to the pushback from event organizers?
Dan, we tried reaching out to the Indian High Commission for a reaction, but they declined to comment. So did the city of Surrey. But I did manage to speak to Anita Haberman, CEO of Surrey Board of Trade. She is one of the organizers of this event, and this is what she had to say.
We're hosting the High Commissioner of India to Canada to really ensure that we're still focused on trade opportunities between Canadian businesses as well as Indian businesses. India is not a market that we can ignore.
So Dan, in next few minutes, the Indian High Commissioner is expected to start speaking at the event. And I'm going to be moving inside, and as we learn more, we'll bring updates to the story. Back to you, Dan.
Saurabh Sandhu reporting from Surrey. Thank you, Saurabh. Members of the Nisga'a Nation are celebrating Hobiye, the Nisga'a New Year, marking the last crescent moon in February. Our Wamish Hamilton spent time with the community ahead of 2 days of dance and feasting at the Peony, and he joins us from there. Wamish, what is it like to be there?
Absolutely electric, Dan. It's fantastic here. Every seat in the house, on the floor and in the bleachers, is full of Indigenous people from around BC, but mostly Metro Vancouver, here to celebrate Hobiye. You know, for Indigenous people, Hobiye is not just about singing and dancing. That singing and dancing is part of maintaining their identity.
They come from the Nass Valley in northern BC. But these Nisga'a dancers aren't visiting. They live here in Vancouver.
We get a little taste of home coming together like this.
The Nisga'a Samek's traditional dancers are running a full dress rehearsal ahead of Friday night, the moment hundreds will watch, gather and feast for Hobiye, the Nisga'a New Year. Hundreds of Indigenous people converge on the Peony Forum for a celebration of identity and connection.
It keeps our family together. It teaches my children and my now new grandbaby our culture. We get to participate in our culture and just keep our culture alive, even though we're not living on our home community.
Hobiye celebrates the last crescent moon in February. The Nisga'a believe if the shape of the moon is open, the year's fish harvest will be good. If it's closed, the smokehouses will be empty. Tanya Percival didn't grow up dancing for a big crowd at Hobiye. But, she says, watching the next generations embrace their culture means it won't disappear.
I feel pride, I do. I look at my kids and I think, because we didn't grow up with it, my sister and I, that I'm glad we made the decision to, actually I think my kids more or less made the decision to pull me up to dance when they were smaller. So I feel a lot of pride when I see them.
Jerry Adams was in his late 60s when he says Hobiye helped him embrace his people's rich culture.
I felt I had no heart, no feel being a Nisga'a, and I felt I had no place in the world of who I was, and I think it was important to become a Nisga'a, to find out my identity, and that was lost for over 60 years. I wasn't able to speak my language. I was afraid to be with my people.
His daughters brought him to his first dance practice only a few years ago. He says something overcame him that he hadn't felt in years.
Initially, I was not willing to go, and I was afraid to do that. But as my heart was feeling more like a Nisga'a, I felt that was important to start learning my drumming and dancing in my language.
Among others, he's learning from Denise Doolin.
Our core group is 30, but at Hobiye we'll probably get about 100 dancers.
She remembers when Hobiye was held at the Friendship Center at Commercial in Hastings in the mid-1990s. It's grown so big year after year, they keep renting bigger venues.
We started this group again so that people can get to know not only how to dance and the culture, but how to learn how to speak their language.
Jerry says that connection has made all the difference for him. He marvels at young Nisga'a displaying their regalia with ease and pride. He says there's no shame, no need to hide, as he once did.
You see the little ones, they're not afraid to show their love. You see them drumming and dancing. To me, that's teaching the kids. They grow up with that, and that's what Nisga'a is all about, is that they can grow up and not be ashamed of themselves. And that's what I lost, and these kids are getting it right away.
Hobiye is free to attend. The Nisga'a open the doors for everyone to take part in celebrating the New Year.
Hobiye continues tomorrow, Saturday, at the Peony Forum. Admission is free. If you can't make it but want to see it, log on to CFNR Radio online. They're streaming it all day.
The CBC's Wamish Hamilton at Hobiye. Thank you, Wamish. Great celebration. A makeup brand with a cause. We're going to speak to the founders of a new Vancouver makeup line supporting survivors of sexual violence. Stick around for this. And hello to everyone joining our commercial-free live stream. A northern Manitoba hockey team, which prepares players for the junior and college ranks, will stay in their city. It comes after community outcry over a proposal to move the team elsewhere. As the CBC's Josh Crabb tells us, the decision is coming as a big relief to people in the north.
The Norman North Stars U18 AAA hockey team may not be going to the playoffs this season, but they've scored a big win off the ice. Thompson's mayor Colleen Smook was among many who fought to save the team.
Well, it's fantastic. Everybody is so excited.
The North Stars play in the Manitoba U18 AAA Hockey League. Norman is comprised of players from communities and First Nations across the north. Wednesday night, the league's directors voted against a proposal that could have seen the team amalgamate with the Dauphin-based Parkland Rangers. Both teams have struggled historically to make the postseason. Commissioner Levi Taylor says the league is simply looking for ways to improve player development and increase competition.
Our directors voted that we want to maintain the existing boundaries and establish what we are calling the Manitoba Elite Hockey League.
Under the proposal, Taylor says the new Elite League would oversee U15, U17, and U18 AAA programs, but both the North Stars and Kenora Thistles can remain in the league. Former Norman player Tony Apatagan from Norway House Cree Nation says the team helped him pursue his hockey dreams.
A lot of kids play hockey up north, I know that, and that's the team you want to go play for when you want to play competitive hockey. It's a great program and just opens up a lot of doors.
The North Stars declined comment, but in a social media post, the team expressed its sincere appreciation to everyone for their unwavering support and enthusiasm. Hockey Winnipeg's executive director Ian McCartan says the organization is glad the North Stars are staying put.
We're a big fan, big supporter, a big proponent of Norman and their program. The realities of that region are so different than the realities of ours. And it's important to work together and to figure out what's best for everybody involved.
McCartan says Hockey Winnipeg doesn't support the idea of moving U15 and U17 teams under the umbrella of a new league. It's been running those programs for years. That proposal still needs approval from Hockey Manitoba. Josh Crabb, CBC News, Winnipeg.
A new Vancouver makeup brand is supporting survivors of sexual violence. Something Something Beauty was started by stylists Micah Gilbert and Kara Alaric, who are donating the profits to organizations that help survivors. Micah and Kara have also done makeup and hair, including for this visage at CBC, including the new Surrey-based show Allegiance, and we welcome them both. Thanks so much for being here. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
I'll start with you, Kara. Why did you decide to do this?
I'm going to be 1,000% honest. One of my best friends here came up with this idea and in a matter of 2 days contacted me. We started chatting about it and the ideas just kept spiraling. The love behind it just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger to the point where we both had so much passion in deciding to do this that a few short weeks later it was actually happening. So I give a ton of credit to Micah. I have to. It's really his idea.
You're good partners.
He planted the seed and I watered it.
And where do you think this came from, Micah?
So, unfortunately, a few years back, I was a victim of
sexual violence by my landlord and our neighbor. And me and Kara have worked together for years in different creative fields. And so I shared this story with her when I came back. We were working on a show last year together, and then she shared that she had the same experience. And we realized that there's so many people out there who feel like they can't come forward, and many people don't feel empowered that way. And so we knew we couldn't change that by giving people makeup, obviously not. But we wanted to give a safe space and a place where people feel supported. And so through that, we dove right in and we decided to make a big, because that's something we already do, we love it, and bringing beauty to the world is what we love. So.
And before we get into a bit more of that, tell us about the products themselves. You've brought some things in here. What do we have? Kara, why don't you give us a...
Well, this is the color that I'm wearing. It's called Say Something. And actually, 100% of proceeds of the sales of this product go to sexual violence survivors. There's also a lash called See Something that 100% of those profits go to sexual violence survivors. 10% of everything else goes to survivors of sexual violence. So we're really, pushing forward with this concept and with this passion for community and for giving people a voice. Yeah.
And Mike, what is the power in the products and maybe the process of putting them on for people?
Sure. So for us, we really wanted to make sure that this is wearable by everybody. So we went with vegan, we went with cruelty-free, and because we wanted anybody to be able to wear it. And the thing is, we're very spiritual too, so we put all of the energy of passion of that elevating you and feeling like you're empowered. That's why we wanted to go with a really bright color for the mouth that said "Say Something," so people feel, even if they can't, they want to make that statement just with the color. And even if you haven't experienced that, everyone knows somebody who has. So it's empowering just to feel like you can do something that gives a voice to something, even if it's not about yourself.
And lastly, we appreciate your time. Which groups have you partnered with and why? Kara?
I would like Micah to start with.
Okay, sure.
Yeah. So for me, when I first moved back to Vancouver, I found a lot of support through male survivors of sexual abuse. They're located on Broadway. So we're a brand new company, so we're just collecting proceeds now. But that's what we're going to be giving a portion to. And then Kara decided to go with...
Vancouver Rape Relief and Women's Shelter. They're a really strong force, and their online representation is huge. They stand for women's rights, equality, and I think that's very empowering for people.
And what has been the uptick so far after the launch?
I'm wearing, so the lip colors they wear as a stain or as a liquid lipstick. So actually right now I'm wearing Wednesday, our #1 seller, as a stain, just to give a little bit of something, as you could say. And it's been really good. It's been really a lot of support through the film industry in our community, and through the website. We've sold out twice already. So the products are beautiful and they're really wearable. So yeah, we're really excited.
Kara Alaric, Micah Gilbert, we appreciate your time, your expertise, and your honesty. Thank you for sharing with us.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
We'll hear from Parliament Hill and beyond as people remember former Canadian Prime Minister Brian Mulroney. The worldwide tributes after this.
Drivers passing by along Cumberland Avenue, this doesn't look like your average portable washroom.
It's painted by Jordan Stranger. We didn't want it to look like a boring old, portable washroom.
Michelle Wickerink is the executive director of the Spence Neighborhood Association. It's one of several organizations that partnered with the city of Winnipeg to set up temporary public washrooms in and around downtown.
Anyone who's been at the park with their kid and needed a washroom knows how important it is to have a washroom at times. All of us have experienced that moment in public when you're like, oh my goodness, I need a washroom right now.
The launch of the temporary toilet project grew out of years of work by health advocates to increase access to public facilities. That led to the construction of a new permanent bathroom on Main Street. This is Amawigimig. It's Winnipeg's only permanent public washroom in the downtown. Since it opened, it's seen a steady increase in the number of monthly visitors, 4,200 in December. Now the city is looking at creating an incentive program to encourage private businesses and organizations to open their own public washrooms. In 2019, the Downtown Winnipeg Biz did a survey to find out how many businesses had publicly accessible washrooms. Out of 350 businesses contacted, only 46 offered their facilities to non-customers. Incentives could include funding for additional staff, training, and maintenance costs. Community Services Chair Evan Duncan says the provincial health department should help.
I'm looking forward to their budget and hopefully seeing a partnership with them to increase the number of public washrooms.
Wicker Inc. says the response from the community to their public washroom has been positive.
They were very glad to see that there was going to be a clean, safe facility where people could go.
The Community Services Committee will consider the idea of incentives for public washrooms at its meeting on March 6th. Cameron McLean, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Tributes are flowing in across the world for Brian Mulroney, Canada's 18th Prime Minister. He died yesterday in Florida at the age of 84. He served as Prime Minister for 9 years from the mid-'80s through to the early '90s, widely remembered for making a lasting impact on both Canadian and global politics. Rafi Boudjikanian has more.
All over Parliament Hill, where Brian Mulroney called home for years, signs a nation is in mourning.
He changed this country. I mean, he was a transformative prime minister. We've not had many of those.
Rick Perkins saw this firsthand as a staffer in Mulroney's government.
The big issues that he tackled are still in place today, whether it's NAFTA, free trade, the things that he did on the world stage we all know about, from apartheid and bringing the Commonwealth and Francophonie along to support his fight to free Nelson Mandela and end apartheid.
But in his last days, Mulroney was away from the limelight.
Brian had a fall and had to go to the hospital and passed away yesterday, late in the afternoon. So the wonderful thing is that all 4 of the children were able to be here in time to see their father.
Mulroney continued to be honored on the Hill today, with a book of condolences placed by his portrait as tributes poured in from opposition and government.
Well, there's certainly going to be many examples of disagreements that many New Democrats had with some of the policies. But today is the day to reflect on his contributions. And I can say with a lot of confidence he did have significant contributions to Canada. And there are things that we can agree with. His work on environmentalism, his work on fighting apartheid in South Africa.
The idea of service and devotion to country ran through everything he did. And I think in this time of a level of toxicity and personal attacks in politics that seems to have gotten worse over the past while, I think it's important to inspire ourselves and to take a moment to remember that everyone who serves does so out of a deep and abiding love for Canada.
The Prime Minister announced today Canadians will have their own opportunity to publicly mourn Mulroney, and the government is working with the family to arrange a state funeral soon. Rafi Boudjikanian on CBC News, Ottawa.
Pressure mounted today on Israel after Gaza officials claim Israeli troops killed more than 100 Palestinian civilians yesterday as they waited for aid. Hundreds more were hurt, and many in the international community are calling for an investigation. Israel says the convoy was swarmed and victims were trampled or run over, but it does say troops did fire into the crowd. UN officials say the incident underlines Gaza is on the brink of famine. The United States, meanwhile, says it will begin airdropping aid into Gaza in the coming days. Families have been left in pieces after the ongoing assaults in Gaza, and many children are now orphans. You're about to hear from some of them. They told their stories to a freelancer with CBC News who is inside Gaza. Chris Brown now with the grief they're dealing with every day.
There are few moments of fun these days for 12-year-old Alma. An Israeli airstrike in central Gaza in December killed 145 people, including her mother, father, and 4 siblings. She was the lone survivor. Alma told a videographer working for CBC News, "I want to go to my grandmother's, but we didn't because I remind her of what happened to my mom and dad." She adds, "I wish I had died with them." Alma is one of 17,000 children that UNICEF estimates have been orphaned or separated from their parents because of the war. Her emotional state is not good, said her uncle. She cries when she remembers her brothers and sisters and her mother and her father. It's hard to calm her down. The creation of so many fractured childhoods and parentless children has emerged as one of the most harrowing humanitarian challenges of the war. UNICEF's Tess Ingram is just back from spending a week near Rafah.
What's been happening in the Gaza Strip is daily incidences of repeated trauma that children aren't able to flee from. And that sort of impact is something that we don't yet fully understand.
9-year-old Yahya is receiving treatment for the wounds he suffered when Israeli bombs destroyed his home 2 weeks ago. His parents and 3 older siblings were all killed. "I wish I could see my mother's face again," he said. "I look on her phone, but there aren't any pictures. I can't see it." He told our videographer he wants to come to Canada, where he has an uncle, but leaving Gaza for anyone right now is very difficult. Dr. Khalil Al-Dagran has been treating Yahya and countless other children. There's been a huge spread of emotional problems, such as depression, anxiety, and isolation, he said. UNICEF says the impact of having so many children losing parents is difficult to know, but the trauma will be long-lasting. Chris Brown, CBC News, London.
There is growing concern over a rise in measles cases across parts of this country. The 2-month tally is just shy of the dozen cases reported for all of last year. And as Lauren Pelly explains, it's happening amid worry over global outbreaks just ahead of the busy March break travel season.
A warning in Quebec after an unexplained case of measles.
We think that it's a beginning of a transmission inside the community.
Laval health officials say an unvaccinated individual somehow caught the virus, even though they hadn't traveled. They went on to visit a school, store, and 2 medical sites, all while highly contagious.
We are kind of worried about the evolution of measles inside our community.
Those fears follow reports of a man in his 30s living north of Toronto who also caught the virus but doesn't know how.
The unique thing about this case, and rather unfortunate thing, is that this case does not have any travel history or any history of exposure.
He had 2 doses of the measles vaccine and only mild illness.
We do know that people who are vaccinated can get a mild form of measles, and we think that they're much less likely to transmit it onwards. So that's certainly good news here.
There are only a handful of measles cases in Canada right now, but healthcare teams are bracing for more infections as global travel heats up.
South of the border, 35 cases in total have been identified across more than a dozen states, including an outbreak in Florida, a hotspot for March break vacations. This Montreal pediatric infectious disease specialist says high vaccination rates in Canada should keep the disease at bay, but
there can be certain communities or pockets of areas where the coverage rates are not high enough to stop secondary transmission.
Canada's top doctor told us Canadians should make sure their measles vaccinations are up to date.
If in doubt, I think 1 dose, getting a dose of vaccine prior to travel would be an important consideration.
And multiple experts agreed curbing the spread of measles is crucial given the risks. It can lead to serious complications, including blindness, brain swelling, pneumonia, even death. Lauren Pelly, CBC News, Toronto.
Bringing the worlds of art and science together. A new interactive exhibit playfully explores microbiology in BC. We're going to take you inside right after this.
In the city of Morden, it's late February and the grass is showing on many lawns. Outside the city, fields are bare dirt, the result of an unusually warm and unusually dry winter. Not the type of winter Mayor Nancy Penner was hoping for.
We are short on water.
That has prompted the city to enter what's known as a moderate drought stage. The designation, part of a plan the city commissioned to help it and its residents better respond to extreme drought events. For a moderate drought, residents and businesses are simply asked to conserve water, cut down on car washes. Hotels and restaurants asked to only serve guests water on request. This comes as much of southern Manitoba, including Morden, has received less than half the normal amount of winter precipitation. That is fueling concerns about another severe summer drought, something Morden went through in 2021. The increasing frequency of dry years has Mayor Penner not shying away from blaming climate change.
Major events happen overnight, and we're seeing those extremes. So, yes, I think we are seeing, where Morden is situated in the middle of the continent, we are situated for those extreme climate events just because of our geographic location.
This is Lake Minnewaska. This is where the city of Morden gets its drinking water from. And right now the water level here is about 1.5 meters lower than it should be for this time of the year. And even with normal precipitation, Mayor Penner says that won't be enough to fully fill up this reservoir, which could lead to more stringent water restrictions come spring.
Penner says what her city really needs is another water source to keep up with demand.
That doesn't come without help from both the federal and provincial side with funding. We are working diligently to meet those needs because this community and the surrounding area is just growing so fast.
The cost of that water source, Penner says, has ballooned from $24 million 5 years ago to now over $100 million. Environment and Climate Change Minister Tracy Schmidt says she is committed to working with other levels of government to build more water infrastructure.
We are aware of the issues in Morden, and they're quite serious. And our department is already working very closely with the municipality of Morden.
Jack Lindsay is an associate professor in the Department of Applied Disaster and Emergency Studies at Brandon University. He says emergency management and mitigation aren't as well funded in Canada as they should be, but credits Manitoba for making some strides.
I would say that Manitoba Emergency Measures has turned a corner and is really pursuing some of the right directions, less response focused and becoming more engaged in mitigation and risk reduction.
Penner is hoping a repeat of 2021's severe drought is not on the horizon.
Everybody needs to be aware of our limited resources, and everybody needs to play a part in this.
She said more public education is key in getting area residents on board. Riley Laychuk, CBC.
So I know when I really like a song, if within the first 3 seconds, I'm already vibing to it.
Hey, I'm Rohith Joseph. Vibin' is the new show all about discovering great new songs and fresh artists from across BC and beyond.
It's not one person dictating what good music is. It's the community sharing what good music is.
Stream Vibin' on CBC Listen.
The Body Shop Canada says it will be closing about 1/3 of its stores in this country. The UK-based beauty and cosmetics firm says it will also halt online sales, while the retailer's parent company tries to restructure under bankruptcy protection. Anise Dari has details.
The Body Shop is closing 33 stores. That's nearly 1/3 of its Canadian outlets. On top of that, it's ending online sales in Canada and closing all of its American outlets. This announcement comes weeks after the retailer's UK parent went into administration there. But at the time, the Body Shop told CBC News no Canadian outlets would close. That's clearly changed. The beauty chain hasn't elaborated publicly on what happened, but in a press release, the Body Shop said it needs breathing room as the UK insolvency process goes on. Retail experts say, though, the ongoing problems for the Body Shop could be because the no animal testing, pro-environment branding of the store isn't as much of a distinct selling point these days.
Really, the messaging that the Body Shop had put out early on, which made it unique, didn't make it, I say, quite as unique, I guess, in more modern times, just because other businesses, retailers, and otherwise also have jumped on that bandwagon. So I think the Body Shop needed some further innovation in order to stand out against its competitors, as those competitors copied some aspects of what the Body Shop has been doing over the years.
Locations will close in cities including St. John, Sarnia, Toronto, Ottawa, Saskatoon, Calgary, and Edmonton. The company hasn't said how many jobs will be lost, though. A court filing said the Body Shop owes more than $3 million to creditors. The 33 stores that are closing will start liquidating right away. Anis Hidari, CBC News, Calgary.
A new exhibit at the Kamloops Art Gallery is bringing together arts and microbiology. The CBC's Jennifer Norwell spoke with the science professor who inspired that project and take a hands-on look at the creative and quirky art created.
So this is you in your element.
Yes, you can see the bats in there as well. My name is Nawarat Chiptam. I go by Anne as well, and I have been a professor at Thompson River University since 2002 in Faculty of Science.
And you are the driving ideas person behind this exhibit. In fact, you're in the one behind you.
Yes, I know, you see me. And I actually, really get my research student, they're hard working in the lab, and they get them to work on our research ideas, and then I'm just, supporting role. I didn't do much.
Tell me a little bit about this idea of bringing art into microbiology. Why did you want to do this?
That's a really good question. I think, when you look back in the Renaissance time, scientists or chemists or artists, everyone is the same person. But it seemed that for some reason now, when we study, it seemed like we have to become this, one thing expert all the time. So I'm thinking that, okay, maybe we can use the left side and right side of the brain, being scientists, and also you have, idea about artistic things as well. So I think that could be really a good marriage, art and science. It would be nice to draw them into art and then get them hooked with science.
Cruising into the weekend, Darius Madabi, who has our BC-wide weather forecast now, and talking about temps.
Yes, it's going to be a chillier one than usual across much of the province, not everywhere, but you're going to notice that here on the south coast, your temperatures, your highs and your lows are going to be very close together. But then as we get into early next week, you can watch this here. You can see those slightly lower than average temperatures across much of the south coast. As we get into early next week, those daytime temperatures come up as we get some sunshine, we get clearer skies, but those nighttime lows also drop back down into the negative. So it's going to be drying up, but any precipitation we do have over the next few days could be coming in the form of some flurries, even at lower elevations, depending on how those winds are blowing. And across the province, we have calmed down. Again, winter storm warnings, snowfall warnings all dropped, but still plenty of snow on the way for many of those higher elevation ranges. But when it comes to the individual cities, we're not looking at too much accumulation. You can see we do have some rain even in pockets here, that green that you see beneath. Some rain coming in some places, but still plenty of snow as well, even in some of these cities that you'd expect to maybe see some more snow. Not going to see too much. But there is a chance that even in the northeast, we do get a little bit, which is very good news in terms of the snowpack situation. Our next update comes out next Thursday, or Friday, sorry. So we can expect to get a little bit of hopefully good news, given how much snow has come and will continue to come to parts of the province, especially here on the south coast, where we have those lowest snowpack levels compared to normal across the province, but not too much on the way. And even underneath where you can see some of the snow, there will be some rain coming to some of those places as well, including here in Vancouver, where trace amounts are possible of snow, but for the most part, It will be coming as showers by the water. Now, in terms of conditions across the province, it looks like a lot of activity, but again, most of these are just scattered showers and flurries, not seeing too much at all. And by Sunday, many places will start to see at least a little bit of sunshine. If not Sunday, early next week, you should get some sunshine as well if you do miss out this weekend. If we look at our 5-day forecast in Vancouver, we have some showers and high elevation flurries possible this weekend. And then as we get into early next week, again, the sun comes out. We see some more blue skies, which should be a nice break. Well, yeah, right, from the gray and a little bit more miserable conditions. But again, those daytime temperatures come up and those nighttime temperatures come down. I should also say, small possibility of a thunderstorm tonight, but not looking too likely.
We don't get many of those, at least in Metro Vancouver. And we know it's Friday, so that means... Wait weeks to do that. Fun Fact Friday, Darius, we know you love talking about space. What otherworldly fact do you have for us today?
Well, 2024 marks the 55th anniversary of the man's first steps on the moon from Neil Armstrong. We have a photo of that here that you can see. But what if I told you that humans were not the first ones to make it to the moon? Sorry, photo here, as you can see.
Now, is that Buzz Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, or Neil Armstrong? See, I'll get it right one of these days.
Name. I like your version.
Yeah, that's it. But I don't think he would.
But not the first potentially life to get on the moon. Now, wasn't alive when they made it, but there is a possibility that there are dinosaurs on the moon.
On, dude.
They beat us by 65 million years. And how is that possible?
Smidge.
Yeah, well, the asteroid that hit Earth and wiped out the dinosaurs, one of the biggest events in Earth's history in terms of its impact on life.
Ask anybody who was there.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, well, actually, take a look at this. You can see some of the impact of that asteroid collision. This is a simulation that scientists made of the tsunami that resulted from that. Some of those waves, right after the impact, 5 kilometers high. And then after a few hours, calming down, just 2-kilometer high waves, so a little bit calmer. But that's not all. It also blasted debris up into the atmosphere and even beyond, strong enough to achieve escape velocity. Some scientists say that the debris is as far out as Jupiter, and it seems likely, if not probable, that there are indeed some dinosaurs, especially their teeth, which are the most likely situation, but some very tiny fragments in moon dust among there. So you're not going to see a whole dinosaur anytime soon on the moon, but...
If they find one, oh boy. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, Dan.
The longest-running pro soccer club is celebrating 50 years this year. Up next, 2 former Whitecaps look back on their time with the club and what's to come. Stick around.
A year is always made up of 365 days, right? Wrong. This is Can Explains the leap year. A leap year is a year with 366 days instead of the usual 365. An extra day is added at the end of February, which is usually only 28 days long. February 29th is the leap day. But why do we add an extra day? And what exactly are we leaping? Leap years happen every 4 years, but there are some exceptions. I'll explain in a bit. But first, let's talk about this thing we use every day called the calendar. In Canada and most parts of the world, we use something called the Gregorian calendar. It was named after this guy, Pope Gregory XIII. The Gregorian calendar is based on a solar year, how long it takes the Earth to go around the sun. It actually takes a little more than 365 days for us to make a full trip around the sun, almost a quarter of a day more. So we end up falling a day behind schedule every 4 years. Julius Caesar actually introduced the 365-day calendar way back around 45 BC. It was called the Julian calendar, and it had leap days. But since the year isn't a perfect 365 and a quarter days, the leap days he added overcorrected. By the time it got to Pope Gregory's day and age, the calendar was off by 14 days. So he reformed it and added some new rules. A leap year has to be divisible by 4, but there are some exceptions. It can't be divisible by 100 unless it's divisible by 400. That's why the years 1600 and 2000 were leap years, but 1700 1800, and 1900 weren't. Basically, skipping leap years every once in a while helps keep the calendar on track. It isn't perfect, but it will take a lot longer for us to go off track than it did before. So why is it called a leap year? In a normal year, every date moves forward one day of the week each year. For example, December 25th, Christmas Day, was on a Saturday in 2021, a Sunday in 2022, and a Monday in 2023. But in 2024, it will be on a Wednesday, leaping over the Tuesday. Get it? Leap year? Okay, so now we know what a leap year is and how the math works. But what would happen if we didn't have them? If we didn't have leap years, then the calendar and seasons would get out of whack. Okay, but what if you were born on a leap day? Well, let's say a kid was born on February 29th, 2012. That means in 2024, they have gone 12 times around the sun, making them 12 years old. But they would have only had 3 birthdays that actually landed on the date of February 29th. That's a leap year. And that's it for This Can Explains. For CBC Kids News, I'm Arjun Ram.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell, and here's what's in your CBC Vancouver inbox.
On March 12th, join CBC Vancouver's Michelle Elliott at the YWCA City Shifts free event, Reimagining Our Cities, Advancing Equity in a Polarized Time. For more information, visit ywcavan.org. And never miss a special programming series, event, or contest. Subscribe to CBC Vancouver's e-newsletter at cbc.ca/Vancouver inbox and keep connected with us.
The Vancouver Whitecaps are celebrating 50 years of North American pro soccer this season. There have been several iterations of the club.
What is now a Major League Soccer team was once part of the now defunct North American Soccer League, which ran from 1974 to 1984. Take a look at the first season opener for the Caps.
17,343 people on hand for the first game in the 1974 season for the Vancouver Whitecaps. The St. Mary's Drum and Bugle Corps, 120 strong, got the afternoon underway with an impressive marching display at Empire Stadium. A miserable afternoon for soccer, and certainly not a very enjoyable afternoon for those that had to get out there and entertain the 17,000 plus fans in attendance. Parachutists dropping the first ball at Empire Stadium, and then San Jose make their appearance, and on come the Vancouver Whitecaps, kicking free Adidas soccer balls into the stands. Sammy Newsom taking his warm-up, and look at Jimmy Easton, a very nervous and excited coach at this point in the afternoon, making his first appearance with the Whitecaps. The official toss of the coin, and the Whitecaps win that one. The Mayor of Vancouver, and he gets to kick the ball off right into the net. They're going to have a contest throughout the season to see which celebrity can kick the ball the furthest, and certainly the Mayor of Vancouver got a good shot away that time. A look at the Vancouver Whitecaps as they get set to make their first appearance at Empire Stadium in the 1974 season. And the game is underway. Should be pointed out that because of the rain, the pitch at Empire Stadium, the artificial turf, was very, very slow. And was the winning goal by Mark Demling of San Jose. He will beat Newsom with this kick, and Brian Gant with the next kick misses. San Jose win it 2-1.
That was then. And the Whitecaps are now kicking off their 2024 season tomorrow as they host Charlotte FC at BC Place Stadium. Early edition host Stephen Quinn chatted with 2 former Whitecaps players this morning. Current club ambassador Carl Valentine has plenty of memories of his first game under the dome.
We were the first sporting event. I think the Queen was the first event in there. We were the first sporting event. And sold out stadium, 60,000 people. Seattle Sounders, Peter Beardsley got a couple of goals and we won 2-1. So we have a great history and, we're really looking forward to celebrating all that this year.
To St. Ricketts, a Whitecaps player liaison, also reflected on the growth he's seen over the years with the team.
The growth of the organization as a whole and how that aligns with the market. The team is good. The players have strong ambitions. Just speaking to the players, they want to win. They want to win for their city. They want to bring something special to Vancouver, and this year's going to be special.
Something to look forward to for fans. A jersey swap is taking place at tomorrow's season opener. The first 500 fans can bring in any old jersey and exchange it for one of those new Whitecaps kits with the gold. Thanks for being with us tonight on CBC Vancouver News at 6. You can watch our newscast on CBC Gem, the free app, as well as on YouTube, and of course our website, cbc.ca/BC.
We'll have your next local news at 11 o'clock, right after the National. See you then.